when you create a new application, you're creating a social structure. You can think of a social structure as being an engine. An engine runs on different types of fuel, and the fuel is human motivations. That includes the desire to make money. It also includes the desire to participate in things just because you believe that they're valuable. It includes the desire to have fun. It includes the desire to be in a place with your friends. It includes all of those things, right? And you want to use these different types of fuel in order to balance each other and in order to try to achieve some goal, right? So you want to try to create something that is both valuable and sustainable. And I think this is probably one of the stronger cases for some of these kind of like alternatives to Twitter actually being blockchain based, right? And like not even just blockchain based, but even like having things like crypto tokens in them. If you want to do good things, then you have to not just have good intentions, but you need to like also actually have resources and power. And so I do think that there's like a real value in figuring out how to like actually balance those two sides.